And seven trumpets were given to them, and another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer. And he was given much incense to offer with the prayer of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. And then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumbling, flashings of light, and an earthquake. And the seven angels, you had the seven trumpets prepared to blow them. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood. And these were thrown upon the earth, and a third of the earth was burnt up, and a third of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because it had been made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light might be darkened, and a third of the day might be kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night. Then I looked, and I heard an angel crying with a loud voice as it flew directly overhead, "Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on earth at the blast of another trumpet that the three angels are about to blow." So that was the scripture. So this is Revelation 8. What we've been doing, as we've been looking through Revelation, we've been reading these passages and unpacking the passages. And we've been doing that. We've been looking at two agendas, the one being the cultural and the other the actual text. Last week, we looked a lot into the text of Zechariah. Remember, I kept on saying hashtag Zechariah, hashtag Zechariah. And if we're going to do that with this passage, we will be here for a long time because there are so many references, especially actually from Exodus. So this evening, I want to back up and look at the culture. We've been looking at Revelation with focusing particularly on on particular things and trying to follow the story. I want to step back and show you that John is doing something here. The first 10 chapters of Revelation, something has been happening. So there is something happening here, and that is a text which John is very intentional about. But also something happening here and the cultural aspect of it that I want to look at this evening. So are you guys with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to do that today, it's all about the games. The Romans took the same idea as the Greek Olympic Games and used them for their own political propaganda. It was the easier way for Rome, for Caesar, to put himself in front of the people to get everyone together doing something they love. Like we enjoy rugby and cricket, and often we get together with friends and we have a bride, we have a whole big thing, a day out of it. That is, if we don't actually go to the particular stadiums and watch it. Get everyone together and use it as an opportunity to spread our own political agendas. And often, when you get together with people to watch rugby or cricket, not only are you the best coach at the moment for the Proteas or the Springboks, but you also somewhere along the discussion, political agendas are going to come up. I'm sure the hot topic at the moment is Donald Trump and all of that. And that's what happens. Oftentimes, Caesar himself will show up in your own town for games that he put on. He paid for so that he can talk about what he's doing in the empire. Now, if you come to compete in the games as an athlete, it was very similar to today. You would come marching under the flag of your country. In those days, they would be coming marching under the banner of their god. So it's very important to know that. So if you were a pagan Roman citizen and you are worshiping a certain god in your house, and then you are part of a certain profession and you were worshiping that god, but you also lived, let's say, in Corinth, and Corinth had their own god. So when you come to the games, you come representing your gods, okay? Your citizenship god, your job god, your house god, and your city god or your country god. It was very tribal. Imagine our guys wearing the Springbok colors under our flag, okay? So it's something similar to that. So in the Roma world, you ran for your gods. You ran to compete in order to tell the world how great your God is. So that when you win and you stand on the podium, in those days, they don't raise the flag and play the national anthem, but it will be understood that that particular God gave you the ability and the talent, and the credit will go to the gods. But all these gods, by the way, hold and support whom? Domitian, okay? Because remember, he made himself God. So the games ultimately is about Caesar and not so much your God, okay? So I want you to look at some pieces of history to show you what John is doing in Revelation. History tells us how these games generally operated. First step to the game was this. By the way, this picture here is from Arena in Aphrodisias. This has all been excavated in Turkey, so it's in modern day Turkey. And this is the way that it's been excavated, and it's very well excavated. It tells us a lot about the way they used to do races in those days. So if the games came here and Caesar was there, he would come out of the tunnel there. Okay, you can see the tunnel in the distance and then closer up. And then he will take his seat in a box, a special place to sit, very much like we have boxes now that are reserved, especially if you if you're in a company or something like that, reserved for VIP. And then a great herald will come out with a huge scroll, and on the scroll would be all these titles and pronouncements and accomplishments of who? Of Caesar. Okay? Next step, Caesar will stand up in the box, and all around the arena are the different cities that are competing in the games. So this is Caesar's opportunity to call out all the cities that are gathered. So he will say to you, city of Philippi, you gave me unbelievable taxes and even more. I compliment you on that. But this is what I hold against you. You did not provide me with any men for my army. Or he will say something like this to you, Corinth. I thank you for all the men that you had handed over to me for my army, but I have this against you. You did not pay your taxes. And so he will go around and say this to every city gathered around the arena. Okay? After this, choir will sing the imperial praise. This will be led by the 24 chief priests. Now, very important that you listen to what I'm saying. So he says, this is what I've got complimenting you. This is what I've got against you. Choir of 24 will be led by 24 chief priests of the legal Roman religion. These were deemed as official legal religions of Rome. Every one of them will have a chief priest that was a member of the imperial cabinet. They always came with him, okay? So they would have surrounded him. Wearing what? Robes, golden sachets, and crowns. And then the choir will sing the praises. This is a real historical record, okay? I'm not making this up. With the words, Holy, holy, holy to the Lord, King of kings, who was and who is to come, referring to Caesar. Now you might say, isn't that in Isaiah? You're absolutely right. Isn't that weird? Yes, it is. But this is one of the songs they will sing to Caesar. At this stage, the games will be open, and the first event will always be the same. It will be a part of the opening ceremony, and it will be the chariot race. And the color of the horse are always the same according to the Roman historical record. Does anyone want to try and tell me what color of the horses they were before you look at the next slide? What do you think the colors of the horses were?
Black, white, and red.
You must have read the next slide.
Remember, you told me before.
A black horse, a white horse, a red horse, and a pale horse. The last stage will be the trumpets. The blast of the trumpets will officially start the game. So if you followed where we are ahead and see where I'm doing, you will realize that John is point by point, setting up the game. John is saying there is a great game. The first one is a presentation of the emperor. Read Revelation 1a, okay? And following. God is presented as the Alpha and the Omega. This is the title of our God. The Almighty enters the arena. Next will be the herald announcement. John hears a voice telling him to what? To write down what he sees. And later, there is a scroll. That person that comes and opens the scroll with all these seals on it, written on both sides, implying that they would not fit in one side. When we talk about the greatness of God, the scrolls couldn't even contain. So it had to be written on both sides, which, by the way, was a difficult thing to do in those days. You couldn't print, you couldn't write on the parchment in both sides. So it's again a mockery to them. Next will be Caesar's pronouncement. Again, read Revelation chapter 2 to 3. What is it? It's God's 7 letters to the 7 churches. What do the 7 letters to the 7 churches say? I've heard these wonderful things about you, but this is what I have against you. Sounds familiar to what Caesar was saying to the different cities. The 7 churches were the 7 churches that were planted in the seven different cities, okay? Next, the choir sings the imperial praise. What about the crowd in Revelation dressed in white robes, led by how many elders? 24. 24 elders are singing the imperial pronouncements only to a different emperor. And what are they singing? Holy, holy, holy Lord God Almighty, who was and who is to come. Next, the games open. Revelation chapter 5. What about the slain lamb who is worthy to open the scroll? And what immediately follows after Revelation 5? The chariot races. The horses appear. What color? White, red, black, and pale. Didn't you say it comes from Zechariah 700 years earlier? And my response is, I know. Isn't that amazing? Yes? Are you there? Are you guys in awe of this or not?
Amazing.
Amazing. Good. We have this cultural, historical reference on the one hand, and on the other hand, the text is on the other hand right in front of us. How does John do that? And my answer is, well, I don't know. And I spelled no badly there, but I don't know. And then what we read about in Revelation 8 and then into 9, and then end with Revelation 10, all about the trumpets. This is about the games. Now, on this level, it's point by point. Remember the 144,000 who have been enlisted to fight? This is not a small fight. This is a cosmic battle. Not using the method of the world of Domitian, but using the method of whom? The slain lamb. And this army gather, it's the way they're going to engage. They're not going to take life by laying down. And there has been this argument inside Revelation on this level, point by point. But on this level, the bigger picture, John is making the exact same argument, but with a totally different metaphor on this level. That's the bigger picture. He's been painting the picture. He's been painting the picture of the games, the Olympic Games, the imperial games that every Roman citizen would have known. Anyone under the Roman Empire would have known that. And he's saying, you are winners, athletes, competitors in this game. This cosmic competition between the Alpha and the Omega. And on the one side, you get Domitian killing everyone you know, literally. And John is using metaphor and pictures to say, the way you run the race, tell the world what your God is like. That's the way you run the race. You see the way we run the race, and the way we finish the race matters to the world around us. It tells the world what God is like. If the world is confused with what we believe in, the problem is with how we are running the race. Because again, who are you running the race for? Not for yourself. Who are you representing? Your God, or your God, the ultimate true God. Now, I want you to look at this passage. This is from Paul in 1 Corinthians 9:24-25. And this is from the NIV. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Paul is saying, Corinth, don't you know that you are running a spiritual race, and the way you run the race tells the world what God is like? This is about putting your God on display. The guys in my church at the Hill, remember we spoke about it on Sunday. This is, again, the people in Jericho, the kings and officials and all the people, they heard what this God was capable of. And it says that the kings were melting with fear. And they actually said to the people, they said, we heard about your God. This is putting God on display. 2 Timothy 4:6-8. For I'm already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. What will it be to be able to say at the end of your life, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Isn't that a wonderful testimony to have at the end of your life? Again, another one, Hebrews 12:1-3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a crowd of witnesses, what is it talking about? The people who are looking at the race. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the what? The race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endures the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Run the race and finish well. Guys, these are some things that we can take from it. We have to trust God finishes what he starts. We have to trust that the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, is finishing. Doesn't matter how many around you seem to be passing you by. We have to trust that he finishes what he starts. The great cloud of witnesses bears testimony to this truth. Whoever they are, they give testimony that the Lord finishes what he starts. The way you run your race is far more meaningful to others than you realize. Starting the race is great, but it means nothing if it isn't finished properly. So you need to run the race. Guys, this is it. This is lecture 7. Again, I can put so much in there, but that's why these lectures are 13 weeks, because there's so much in, and we only did a half an hour. There's so much in it. So before we get cut off, there is no session 2. There is just session 1. Are there any questions, any observations that you want to make? Anyone?
I suppose there are lots of questions about the mountain that was thrown into the sea, and what is all that about, and all that passage, those things there.
Those are all references to things that have happened over history, where a mountain would have erupted, and when the eruption happens, then the lava just flows and often flows. It looks for the lower point, and the lower point is normally your seas or your lakes, all that kind of stuff. So all those things that it talks about are all historical occasions that would have happened. That would remind any, again, historical occasions of significance. It will remind people of, for example, as soon as I say 9/11, what comes to your mind?
Yeah.
But it's 9/11. It could be any number. Okay, it can be 911. Which 911? If I say 9/11, you come straight to your mind. If I say 911, you would say, "Oh, that's an American." Answering services and first responders and stuff like that. So it's a similar thing that in here, when you're mentioning all those little events in history, it reminds the reader of those events. But at the end of the day, he is actually saying, because who was the creator of heaven of the earth? God himself, God of Israel. Okay, so it's bringing reference to those places that saying even those things are going to be flattened. Why? Because God created, and God is the one who can take away. He's the one that adds, and he's the one that takes away. But we need to be careful in Revelation. What often we do is we look for those kind of things and says, okay, well, that means there needs to be an earthquake and a tremendous volcanic eruption, and that will mean, there we go, this is the end days, this is the end times. Guys, get ready, this is the end time. Again, as I said from the beginning, Revelation is not just about future events. Revelation is about the here and now. It's for here and now, and it's for then. And we cannot read it just one way or the other way. We have to read it in both kind of ways. Okay.
And the rivers that turn to blood.
Any other observations or questions? All right. Okay, guys. So as usual, there is no session 2. We're finished. What I'll do is within a day or 2, I will send a recording, and then I'll send the notes as well. And if you got any questions, just either email me or WhatsApp me, and I'll try to answer as much as I can. Have a blessed evening, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Levi. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Levi.
Blessings.
Thank you.
You're
No,
welcome.
no.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
Lakai.
Bye.